is Maciej Woźniak, and I would like to welcome you to another part of an interview with Dr. Patrick Vickers, who is director and founder of Gerson Clinic in Rosarito, Mexico, www.gersonclinic.com, other known as Northern Baja Gerson Center. This is already our third meeting online, Dr. Vickers, and we have a lot of questions from the viewers, from the subscribers. They're really interested in the therapy that you have in the clinic. I'm gonna speak English, and then I'm gonna translate everything to Polish for all of you. So we'll just continue, Dr. Vickers, without any interruptions for translation. So we already found out what drove you to establish the Gerson Clinic in Mexico. And we know as well why in Mexico and not in the States. And now all the viewers would like to know more about the cancer itself and other degenerative diseases that you treat over there at your clinic. So first question, can you please tell us which cancer type is the most common among the patients that come into your clinic, and why is that?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, we treat every cancer under the sun. I mean, every cancer under the sun comes into our clinic. But today, what you're seeing a predominant situation in types of cancers coming in is your reproductive cancers, particularly, you know, breast, uterine, ovarian, in men, prostate. These are the cancers today that we're seeing primarily coming into the clinic. I'd have to say at least 50% or more would be those cancers combined. And the reasons are simple. Estrogen. Today, there's so much estrogen in our environment. That estrogen comes from diet. It comes from things in products like plastics, styrofoams, cosmetics, perfumes, anything with an artificial aroma, soap, shampoo, you know, the plugins you plug into your wall to make your house smell nice.
Essential oils, right?
Well, some essential oils are high in estrogen, but not as high as, you know, these other things that I'm talking about with all these artificial aromas, like candles, for example. Anything with an artificial aroma is loaded with what are called synthetic estrogens, and they're 10 times more volatile on the human body than natural estrogens. And so we know that estrogen causes the overgrowth of tissue, which ultimately becomes cancer. So that is the reasons why.
What about EMF radiation? Because I recall that you told me one day that you had a patient who was carrying constantly a cell phone in his pocket, and then he got some kind of tumor on his leg, exactly where the cell phone was always placed.
Yeah, we see that all the time as well, right? We see that, you know, nurses today, for example, they have pockets right here on their shirts, and during their shifts, they'll put their cell phones in there. Well, I've had 3 or 4 nurses come in with tumors right where they've had their cell phones. I had a guy from Afghanistan come in that has had a tumor the size of a basketball in his stomach. And so clearly that told me that that had to come from something more specific, you know, than, you know, what some of your standard cancers would be. And so after talking with his family, it turned out that he was a computer programmer, and he lied on his bed 6 days a week, 9 hours a day with his computer on his stomach doing his work. And that was it. You know, so EMF radiation, look, when the microwave came out, what were we taught? We were taught to stay away from the microwave. Why? Because the microwave obviously is radiation, and radiation causes cancer. Well, what are all these things we have today? Cell phones, computers, they are microwaves. And so not only do we have them on our bodies, we're holding them up to our heads, we're putting them on our laps, we're putting them over our legs, over our reproductive organs, and voila, you're going to have cancer. So these things today, cancer is running rampant. I mean, it literally is the true pandemic. And so these are the things that are causing cancer today. And diet, of course, is paramount. You know, diet, if our diets are really, really healthy and perfect, we can prevent these things even still. But today, our diets are so destroyed that, you know, we have absolutely no defense against cancer.
Right. I remember that you also mentioned one day that we literally dig our own graves with our teeth. But I also believe that, you know, food is the main factor, that's for sure. But what about the whole toxicity in our body? Not only that, but also toxicity in the relations, you know, in family relations, toxicity at work, how that could impact as well your health.
Yeah, of course. If you ever listen to Charlotte Gerson's videos, you know, she always says cancer and disease are two things: deficiency and toxicity. You know, back in 1900, 1 out of every 60 to 1 out of every 100 people got cancer. Now we're down to 1 out of every 3, going on 1 out of every 2. And the way we're going, we'll all be guaranteed cancer by the year 2030, 2050, somewhere in there, if we don't reverse the things that we're doing. But what's happened since 1900 and now? It's simple. We've belched every chemical and poison into our air, our water, our food. And so our bodies universally around the world are a reflection of what's going on the earth and what we're doing on the earth. And so the amount of toxicity in our environment today compared to 1900, it's like night and day. And so toxicity is a huge proponent of diseases today, particularly cancer. Stress, relationships, which cause stress. You'll always hear me say the secret to the Gerson therapy is the production of energy on a cellular level. The human body creates energy from food. And when our food is bad and our food is toxic, we lose that ability over time to produce energy on a cellular level. That's why when you see someone who's sick and dying, what do you notice? They're lethargic. Why are they lethargic? They've lost the capacity to produce energy on a cellular level. So energy today is one of the things that when we're dealing with stress, that is why stress is such a major factor in disease. It's constant depletion of our energy levels on a cellular level. And that energy is something that needs to go towards maintaining a healthy immune system and certainly curing a sick and dying one. Not to mention that when we're in stress mode due to work, due to relationships, due to what's going on in the world today, the amount of hormonal changes that take place as well, that can cause an increase in production of estrogen as well, because of the production of cortisol when we're under stress. You know, when a woman gets endometriosis, which is, you know, a growth and adhesions in the lining of her uterus, the classic patient that comes in with that type of a disease is someone who's has a high level of stress, has a really poor diet, and is drinking a lot of caffeine, which leads to more cortisol production, which leads to more hormonal imbalances, which leads to more overgrowth of tissue, i.e., endometriosis. Well, the same goes for cancer. When you're causing the overgrowth of tissue like that, it's because of, you know, one of the reasons is because of the high stress levels, whether it's work or relationships, and that is depleting our energy production. It's putting us in a fight or flight mode, which is causing adrenaline issues and hormonal issues within the body, again, ultimately leading to disease and cancer. So it's not just one factor that's causing cancer and these other diseases. It's a multitude of factors revolving around diet, toxic environment, and toxic spiritual and emotional environment revolving around stress and relationships.
I understand. When you or your doctors see a patient for the first time, can you tell, more or less, of course, based on, for example, this patient charisma or will to fight the cancer, if she or he will be successful in the whole treatment?
That's a good question. You know, to do this therapy requires incredible amounts of discipline. It requires a huge will to live. And in a lot of cases, that comes along with a strong faith in God, a good family unit and support network around them. And so, yeah, a lot of times when people do come into the clinic, you know, we pretty much have a good idea who's going to succeed and who might not succeed, right? And that revolves around those issues, you know. So we're constantly, you know, watching our patients and learning from them who they are, what their situation is going home. And by the time a patient leaves, we pretty much have a good idea who's going to stick to it, who's not going to stick to it, and what are some of the other factors that are going to determine whether or not they succeed? What's their family life like? What kind of a community support network do they have around them? Those are all major factors in going on this therapy. But first and foremost, it comes down to, does the patient have the discipline to make the radical lifestyle changes they need to make in order to get well? And, you know, the difference between when Dr. Gerson was alive 80 years ago and today, again, is like night and day. People's discipline, their will to live, their support network, their relationships. It's a much more difficult situation.
Well, even despite the fact that we have, well, I'm just guessing, an easier life than, you know, back than 60 or 70 years ago.
Yeah. Right. And look, let's face it. People were much more disciplined back then. You know, the work ethic. They also had a greater sense of community. There was more support around them. You know, so we're living in a different era. And again, if you want to cure yourself of a disease, you better be prepared to change your life. You better be prepared to have the discipline necessary to go against everything you did in the first place to cause the cancer. Getting back to this, you know, the thing you mentioned, that we're digging our graves with our teeth, because that is the reality. You know, we're eating everything and anything under the sun that's causing disease today. And it's going to take a radical lifestyle change to reverse that.
Yeah, I understand. Well, do you feel that you also kind of absorb the energy of your patients that are there in your clinic? Because I know that, you know, for most of the time in the year, you are in the clinic, you live among these people that are coming to you for the treatment, and you know, I would say, guess in 99% of the cases, you are like the last hope, because they already tried all of the conventional methods, conventional medicine methods, and you know, you are literally the last hope. How this have any impact on you?
Absolutely. You know, I often talk about this in my lectures about, again, getting back to what is the secret to the Gerson therapy? It's the production of energy on a cellular level, and that's what we do. And that energy has to go towards healing the immune system. It's to rally the immune system to fight the disease. And so people who come into my clinic, ultimately, what are they craving on a cellular level? Energy, right? Have you ever heard people say that that person really zaps my energy, or, they took my energy away? It's interesting. And I talk about this at the clinic when I lecture. If you put 5 girls in a dorm room at college and you room them together, you know what happens? They all start getting their cycles, their menstrual cycles
at the same time.
Why? What happens in that environment? They all start to share vibrational energy.
Yeah, and resonate the same way. Yeah.
All right, until they come into sync with one another. And so then they come into sync with one another, and next thing you know, they're all getting their menstrual cycle at the same time. So when you put a bunch of sick patients in one place together at the same time, and then people like my doctors, my nurses, my kitchen staff, myself, who aren't sick and have greater amounts of energy than the sick patients, I'm sure there's the same thing going on there, that those cancer patients unknowingly, instinctually, are probably starting to take energy from those who don't have cancer. And so I can be around cancer patients for, a few hours and I feel tired. Not because they're a nuisance or because they're bothering me or, causing me, stress, whatever. That's not the case. It probably is more related to that sharing and coming into, a more vibrational cohesion. And so absolutely. And that's why, I'm a chiropractor. And so I give chiropractic treatments. I don't usually adjust my cancer patients. So I won't really have my hands on them for that reason. Because if I was adjusting my cancer patients all day long, I would be exhausted. So for that reason.
I understand.
So yeah, that definitely serves as a, as an exchange of energy between people. It can drain the healthier people.
I understand. Well, the most repeated question from all of the comments that were under our previous interviews was obviously related to the price. And I know that there are different types of cancers, different needs, but can you please tell us generally, just to answer those questions, how much is the treatment at your clinic?
Okay, if you come to us with cancer, that's going to require the intensive protocol. There's 2 different protocols. There's the intensive cancer protocol, and then there's the treatment for detoxification, for prevention, and for all the other conditions, diabetes, heart disease. So if you come to us with cancer, the price is going to be $6,750 per week. And that includes a myriad of things, as you well know. And so it can also includes 3 months worth of supplements. It includes us picking up the patient at the airport and taking them back. It includes a companion. So the companion stays in the room. They get 3 meals, 3 juices, and they get to share the room with the patient. So all that's included in that price. And we require a minimum 2-week stay. And then we have a few extra therapies that are universal immunotherapies that benefit everyone that aren't included in that. And so those therapies would go on top of that, and we give them as cheaply as we possibly can. I know clinics that are charging 2 to 3 times more for the same treatments. So we're charging $6,750 per week on the cancer plan, and then, you know, a little bit extra for those treatments that I mentioned that aren't included and that are optional. They're, you know, it's up to the patient whether or not they want to do those. So the detox program, which is a modified of the intensive protocol for cancer patients, not modified that much, but a little bit, that's $4,000 per week. So to come for 2 weeks to our clinic and receive the detox protocol, and again, it includes a lot, it's $4,000 per week. So those are our prices. And let me tell you, that may sound like a lot to people, but I encourage you to go check out some of the other clinics that are offering natural therapies, not the Gerson therapy, but the natural therapies. And you're going to pay probably 30 to 50% more at a majority of the clinics, and you're going to get 50% less. And I challenge everyone to do that, because they'll see that that is the reality. We offer the most comprehensive protocol, and we do it at the most reasonable pricing that there is.
Not to mention that your clinic is basically like a resort. So for companion, of course, you know, not counting all the stress, but that's basically a vacation. And your prices are very, very reasonable comparing to the normal standard procedures for cancer, like chemotherapy. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Even with insurance covering those things, just the deductibles and things, the amount people have to pay outside their coverage often bankrupts them. And the medical doctors go after them. The medical profession goes after that, you know, money. And so you're right. When you're diagnosed with cancer with the medical profession, you're $1 million baby. That's what you are. You're $1 million baby at that point. And so, look, to come to our clinic, do our therapy at our clinic for 2 to 3 weeks, go home, continue the therapy for the 2 years recommended. You have to do the therapy for 2 years if you have cancer. You will probably pay on average about $2,500 to $3,000 per month going home for the remaining 2 years. So you can do the math on that. It probably comes between $60,000 to $75,000 over 2 years. You compare that with the amount of money that you would have to pay even if coverage was with, you know, chemotherapy and everything. And then you get your life back, right? You know, so it sounds expensive, but it's not. And if you think about all the money you spent doing the things you did to get the cancer, to be able to reverse that in 2 years, which took 50 years, 60 years to occur, it's a miracle and it's merciful. And so, you know, we offer a very good service at a really good price.
Now, we know the price now. Can you tell us a little bit more about the admission process to your clinic? Because some people believe that you need to be accepted, probably based on you know, the history of the cancer, of the history of the treatment, and stuff like that. But I know that if you call any other clinic in Mexico, or not even in Mexico, but also in the States, first you are connected to a marketer, the one who is speaking English. And of course, he or she collects all your data, all your information, like email, address, telephone number. Then after a couple of days, that person is contacted by a nurse, who is in many cases saying that the main doctor or the doctor of the clinic unfortunately is not available, so it's extremely busy. So you have to decide very quick if you want to be accepted for the treatment because we have very limited space, and they put so much pressure on you that you need to decide right now and spend your money. But I know that on your clinic there is your cell number, your personal telephone number provided, 715-299-5070, if I'm not mistaken, and also the email director@gersonclinic.com. It's your email, not to any nurse or any marketer. That's the first contact is through you, and
That's
you
correct.
always talk to the patient, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And so, like you said, a lot of these other clinics, they actually have phone banks where the person answering the phone is making their money on a commission basis. Talk about a conflict of interest, right? For us, in order to get accepted into our clinic, you have to be able to eat and drink really without any major hindrances. And you need to be fairly mobile, be able to get around, move around. And so we're constantly having to turn away patients because they don't fit that criteria. And so a lot of these other clinics, they'll take anyone as long as they have a pulse. Even though they know they can't help them, they're still willing to take their money. If we accept you, it's because we feel like we can help you. If we don't feel like we can help you, we won't accept you. And another thing, as you said, you do contact me directly. I'm the face of the clinic. I can communicate it the best, the therapy, what they need. I know what the patient wants to hear. And so I've taken on that role of being the first line of contact. When someone contacts the clinic, I think that's very important because it needs to be communicated directly and correctly. And so once you speak with me, once you email me, and I send you all the information, you'll never hear from me again. It will be up to you at that point to get back in contact with us. We won't be sending you harassing phone calls every 2 to 3 days, putting pressure on you to come. We just won't do it. You might hear from me once after I send you the information, asking if you've received it, asking if you've had a chance to read it, and if you have any questions. That's it. Apart from that, you'll never hear from me again. I don't believe that people who are already in fear need to have that pressure put on them to make a decision or to come to a certain clinic. Once I send out the information and we've made contact, it's up to you at that point if you want to contact us. I'm not going to track you down. If you're interested in what we do, you'll contact me. I shouldn't need to contact you. And that is the difference between me and virtually all those other clinics out there, because that's exactly what they do. It's high pressure sales. And the medical profession, they're the worst. But even the natural treatment clinics in my industry, they can be just as bad. We're not interested in your money. We love what we do because it's the truth. Dr. Gerson left us an absolutely amazing therapy and legacy, and that's why we do what we do. The money, that's secondary. And so we don't sit there and try to pound our therapy and our clinic down your throat.
Wow. Well, then what was the worst case that you ever accepted to your clinic and successfully cured?
Well, I mean, there's hundreds, if not thousands of those, right? I think of Felicity Corbin-Wheeler. Felicity Corbin-Wheeler, she had a TV show in Europe called Revelation TV. She came to a Gerson clinic with one of the worst cases of pancreatic cancer we'd ever seen or heard of. She had to be on morphine for 6 months because she was in such excruciating pain. And after 2 years on the Gerson therapy, she was completely cured. She just died this year, actually, at the age of like 80 or 81, but she'd been cancer-free for 30 years at that point. that brings to mind one. I have a gentleman right now who, Joe Duckett, he came to our clinic. When he came to our clinic, based on everything that we just previously talked about do you think someone's going to succeed or not succeed on the therapy? I didn't think Joe was going to succeed for various reasons, but he was really advanced. He came in with a PSA test for prostate cancer of 1,600. I've never seen it that large. And that indicates the extent of disease in the body. Normally, you'll see someone with a 10, 14 on their PSA test. His was 1,600. And I got an email from Joe a month ago, which I was shocked that I even got an email from him, right? And he said, Patrick, after 8 to 10 months, I think he's been on the therapy, his PSA is down to 7.
Wow.
And I'm in shock because I honestly thought I would not hear from Joe again. And so I'm so excited and happy for Joe. It just goes to show you what persistence and determination can do if you have that will to live. And he had that. He had a lot of spunk in him. He had a great personality. You know, for an older guy, he was like a 30-year-old in terms of his spirit. And so, you know, so there's a case. And then there's another case of a lady named Edie Chassie. She came in with, I believe, colorectal cancer. And, you know, she was bleeding when she came into our clinic, stage 4 and end stage. And I knew when Edie walked through that door that she was going to do what she needed to do. And she did. And she is cured and alive and well today. She actually trains large animals like bears and tigers or whatever for Hollywood movies. That's her job. And so, you know, when she walked through the door, you know it was going to get done. And it got done. And so, you know, those are the 3 cases, you know, that stand out to me the most. But like I said, over the 120 years we've been curing cancer, that's, you know, there's hundreds and thousands of those cases.
After all your lectures and the videos I've seen on your webpage and on your YouTube channel, I know that there is no magic behind the Gerson therapy. And I do understand that the body needs to be awakened, basically cleansed and detoxified to fight the cancer itself. But is there anything essential in the Gerson therapy or in the protocol that needs to trigger the body defense mechanism? Is that not the coffee enema that is do all of the let's say magic?
Well, there is no one component of the Gerson therapy that is the secret to the therapy. As you well know, this is a multifaceted approach to disease. There's so many factors that go into the Gerson therapy that are responsible for its power to heal. The 20 pounds of organic fruits and vegetables every single day to replenish the depleted bodies that people have managed to come up with after years of diet abuse of poorly nutritious food. Then there's the detoxification procedure of the coffee enema, as you mentioned, a huge factor in our ability to be able to reverse disease. There's not a more potent way to detoxify the human body than a coffee enema. So that plays a major role. What else plays a major role? Not having any sodium in the diet, as sodium is one of the primary causes of all disease. Bombarding the body with potassium in the fruits and vegetables but the special potassium compound powder that Dr. Gerson established that goes into each individual juice to get salt and water out of the cells. All of these things come together to form the Gerson therapy, and not to mention all the other very specific supplements that are geared towards the production of energy on a cellular level. Everything we do on the Gerson therapy revolves around that. Everything we do, I literally learned in Biochemistry 101 in my first 3 weeks, which was the production of energy on a cellular level. That is the secret to health and disease. And everything we do rallies around that. And so there's no one magic bullet. Everyone's searching for the magic bullet to cure cancer. How many times have you been on the internet? Take this, it cures cancer. Take this, it cures cancer. Rest assured, folks, if you have advanced cancer, there are no magic bullets. No drink, no supplement, not just cannabis oil is going to cure an advanced cancer. It has to be a multifaceted dietary and detoxification procedure, and then maybe you add some of these other things to it. Okay? There's no magic bullet. There are no shortcuts to healing. It requires an intensive, radical dietary and detoxification protocol.
I know that, well, talking about the detoxification, I know that coffee enema is a big factor in the whole Gerson protocol. And it's always related to Gerson therapy. How many coffee enemas your patients need to take daily?
Yeah, so if they're an advanced cancer patient, they need to have 5 a day. They're getting them every 3 to 4 hours. And if they're suffering with diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, 3 a day. And so our patients with cancer, they're getting 13 juices a day, fresh pressed, literally 20 pounds of organic fruits and vegetables every single day go into their body. And so then you have to detox that body, because not only are they toxic from their disease or their years of poor lifestyle and the environment, but they're also toxic because the tumors are producing massive amounts of toxins. Then as you give these juices and the diet and the supplements, you start to break down the tumors, which is even more toxic. So they need 5 coffee enemas per day to get rid of that toxicity throughout the day.
Wow. It's a lot of work.
That's why the Gerson therapy is the most successful therapy in the history of medicine for being able to reverse advanced disease. That's why 7 movies have been done on our work. There's no other therapy that's received that international recognition as the Gerson therapy. Not even close.
So what is the typical do and do not for the patient's therapy at your clinic? Like, they're not allowed to eat certain things. They're not allowed to use sauna. They're not allowed to exercise. They're not allowed to do this and that. But they should do something else. What's the do and don't for the Gerson therapy?
Yeah, well, rule number 1, if you want to heal from cancer, you got to cut out 2 things. Anything that comes from an animal, and you got to completely eliminate salt. Those 2 things, you're not going to heal. It's that simple. And let me repeat it. Anything that comes from an animal, with the exception of non-fat organic yogurt, which our patients get at 6 weeks daily, after 6 weeks. But anything from an animal, milk, cheese, meat, eggs. You don't touch them or your cancer is going to grow. It's that simple. Salt. You eat salt, you won't heal. That includes the good salt. There's no such thing as good salt. There's such thing as better salt. Table salt is 99.9% sodium chloride, the destructive molecule in the human body, for the human body. Even your most unrefined salt, Himalayan, Celtic, Dead Sea salt, they're 87% sodium chloride, and that's the destructive molecule that causes disease in the end. It destroys the immune system because it destroys the body's ability to create energy on a cellular level. Simple as that. And so those are the two main things that you cannot do. There's some other things people won't understand that they can't have because they'll think that these things are healthy, which they are in a healthy body, but not in a patient with cancer. So our patients can't have avocados because they're too high in fat. Our patients cannot have any oils, with the exception of raw flax oil. They cannot cook with oils. They cannot put oils on their food other than raw flax oil. Why? Because they're going to cause tumors to grow. Tumors love fat, and particularly they love oils, and they even love more oils that you cook with. So that is a major factor as well. They can't have any oils. They can't eat celery. They can't juice celery. Why? Because celery is the highest form of sodium you can get out of any vegetable. They can't juice spinach. Spinach is high in oxalic acid and can cause kidney stones and prevent some absorption of vital nutrients. So these are some of the things and rules that the patients learn when they're at the clinic. And these are mandatory rules. And if you test them and try them, you'll find out why they're the rules that Gerson established. He did this for 50 to 60 years. And you look at his forbidden foods list, and rest assured, if he tried those foods, they cause tumors to grow.
Wow. Well, I don't want to torture you anymore with the questions, although I have a few more.
Well, we can go a little bit longer, Magic. That's fine.
Okay. All right. Okay. Can you please tell us how the typical day at your clinic looks like?
Yeah. It is a jam-packed day. You wake up at 6:30, you do your first enema. Breakfast is at 8. Your first juice, other than your orange juice at breakfast, starts at 9. Then you get juices at 9:30, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, all the way till 7 p.m., fresh pressed, organic. In between there, you're doing enemas. You get your enema at 6, you get your enema at 10, you get your enema at 2, you get your enema at 5, and you get your enema at 8. So you're getting enemas all throughout the day as well. And in between there, you're doing hyperbaric oxygen, you're doing the pulse electromagnetic frequency beamer technology, you're doing the Bob Beck protocol with the silver pulsar, you're doing our near-infrared sauna. So you're getting all these therapies in between. A 2 to 3 week stay goes so fast at our clinic. People come and go. It's really incredible. You know, it's like a finely tuned machine when you come to our clinic. As you well know, you've been there, right?
Yep.
So you've seen how it functions, and it is some operation. And, you know, so that's your day. You know, you might on a Sunday, it's a little bit slower. So you might be able to get out and walk around and go downtown Rosarito and enjoy the tourist section of Rosarito, which is fabulous. It's a great experience. And yes, it's completely safe. You know, it's completely over sensationalized what they tell you about Mexico. I mean, look what goes on in the States. I feel safer in Mexico most of the time than I do in the United States. You know, and we're in a major tourist area. So you know, as you know, Rosarito is an amazing place. It's lovely. It's beautiful. It's fun. The weather's perfect. The people are amazing. And so, you know, in between your therapies, you can have a chance to go and explore a little bit, but you don't have a lot of time, to be perfectly honest with you. If you're on the detox protocol or you have a lesser condition, then you have a little bit more time. But other than that, that is a day, and it is full packed day, particularly if you have cancer.
It is. I remember when I was visiting your clinic, after 3 or 4 days on this delicious food that your cooks prepare for your patients and for companions. And it's truly lovely. It's not only very tasty, but it's well served. But I remember that after a couple of days, I just said to you, it's like, hey, let's go to Rosarito and maybe let's eat something. And we went to a taco place, and as soon as I took the first bite, I really enjoy it because that was a meat which is not available at your clinic. But later on, after an hour or two, I was suffering so bad. I was telling to myself I would never eat this food again, never ever, because you feel great. Basically, you feel very detoxified while you're on the food provided by the clinic. And I've been doing as well coffee enemas and juices, and I felt great. I don't have any, thanks God, any diseases. My father died of cancer, but I remember he said that he will never ever do coffee enema in his life. So yeah, but I felt great, like newborn.
Yeah, look, you know, the foods that you consume when you're at our clinic, they're the easiest to digest. They're the easiest to be converted into energy. And then you go out and you have a big piece of meat, steak, taco, which is hard to break down, hard to, turn into energy. It's like night and day. And so I'm the same way. You know, I don't eat perfectly. I mean, when I'm at the clinic, I pretty much do, but on occasion I'll go out and I'll splurge and eat something that I shouldn't. And like you, I always regret it. And then, time makes us really stupid. And 3 months later, we try it again and we get sick again. And we forget. And so, but you do this for 2 years on the Gerson therapy as a patient. At the end of 2 years of being strict Gerson, you go out and try something that you ate before that didn't sit so well. You'll feel it, and you probably won't go back to doing it again.
Well, I have one last question, and there were some comments that you are like a very good example of somebody who is constantly on Gerson, who eats that food, and because you simply look good, you look tan. I do understand that, Rosarito, Mexico, 365 days because you need to leave the one day for bad weather. But basically, it's sunny over there. But how come you're not aging? How old are you, Patrick?
Well, I'm 52, going on 53 next month. And I have the aches and pains of a 53-year-old, right? Those are because of sports injuries and stuff. But look, someone posted today a photo on Facebook of an 80-year-old black woman and an 80-year-old white woman. That 80-year-old black woman, I'm telling you, she looked like she was 40 or 50. And I've seen her on TV. She's been on TV. You got to see this woman at 80 years old. Why? Because of the choices she makes. And then they showed that 80-year-old white woman with a cane. Her skin was sagging, no muscle tone, nothing whatsoever. Why? Poor diet, poor lifestyle, and bad choices, right? So, like I said, when I'm outside the clinic, I literally eat like I'm in a hotel right now. I'll literally eat 4 to 5 pounds of fruits and vegetables a day, mostly fruit. Like I had 3 pounds yesterday of fruit, berries, banana, but then I'll cheat. I won't have something necessarily so healthy, but it literally is the nutrients I get from the organic fruits and vegetables that keep me healthy. I really don't work out, and the tone of my skin and my muscle, that's one thing that really stood out to me the most when I lived with Charlotte Gerson. Remember, I lived with Charlotte Gerson when she was 76 years old, and I would adjust her as a chiropractor. I would treat her when I was at her home. And I remember laying my hands on her for the first time, and she was 76. She had muscles like a horse. And, people say, well, where am I going to get my protein and nutrients on this diet? Where does a horse or a cow get their nutrients from? How do they maintain that tone and that muscle mass? They're not out there jogging 5 miles a day and pumping iron. They're just sitting there grazing all day. It's the nutrient status within your foods that determines the health of your muscles, your skin, your longevity, right? And so that's why, ultimately, there's no mystery. You'll hear people say it's genetic. Nonsense. It's not genetic. Don't think that for 1 second. It's a lie. It's choices. It's choices. Your body's no different than mine. It's the choices we make that are. And so that 80-year-old woman, black woman, compared to that 80-year-old white woman who was holding her cane, those were just choices. That wasn't genetics.
Now, thank you very much for this interview, Patrick. I was that shows that you are one of us, normal guy who is cheating from time to time on food, and it's not like the god of the Gerson therapy. although you're basically the face of the Gerson therapy since Charlotte Gerson passed away. But that interview actually makes you even closer to all of us, to the viewers, and I want to thank you for all of you said today. But at the very end, do you have anything that you would recommend for the viewers in order to stay healthy and to prevent them from getting cancer?
Well, we've already talked about some of the general rules on the therapy. The more animal products you eat, the more disease you're going to cause. The more salt you eat, the more disease you're going to cause. Another rule I personally live by, I never eat anything that comes from the water. Anything in our waters today, I won't touch. Our waters are so polluted. And so that includes anything. That includes fish. But if you're even consuming the bottom feeders like shrimp, clam, lobster, crab, those things are even more toxic than the fish because they're cleaning our polluted oceans. So I won't touch anything from a lake, from a river, from the ocean, ever. And if I do cheat, it's always with grass-fed organic, meat. But it's very rare. If I'll eat meat maybe once a month on average, twice a month maximum. And that's only because I'm out and about and I can't get anything else, or, on a rare occasion, I just, I can be a closet carnivore. But, for the most part, you don't eat meat. It's not optimal for the human body. You can survive on fruits and vegetables, lentils, quinoa, oatmeal, brown rice, wild rice. These are the things that ancient cultures have survived on forever. to eat a diet high in animal products, you will pay the price. You will pay the price.
All right. Thank you very much for that interview. And guys, if you have any questions, please either leave a comment or send us an email, and we'll forward them to Dr. Vickers or create another interview maybe next month. Thank you.
Yeah, it'd be great to go through the science behind health and disease at some point. And one more thing to add is to things you don't do. You don't cook with oils. You just don't cook with oils. Once you put an oil to heat, regardless of what they say about the temperature threshold that it has, it wreaks havoc on the hormonal systems within the body and the free radicals and damage it does to the body. You just don't cook with oils. So, that's another thing you need to consider. And you need to stay away from saturated fats. That's the reason why, ultimately, these animal products are so deadly, is because of the saturated fats. And, that is what ultimately causes the breakdown of the human organism. So, when you think of oils, coconut oil is so highly saturated, yet it's being touted as a health food product. And it's not at all. It's highly, highly unhealthy and inflammatory. So, that's another rule you want to live by. But anyway, yeah, at some point, we really should go into the science about the production of energy on a cellular level, because that is the secret to health, and that is the secret to curing disease. And nothing addresses that greater than the Gerson therapy. So to be able to share with the viewers the simple science behind health and disease and the Gerson therapy, because it is simple, so simple a child can understand it.
Wow. So we have a plan for our next meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Vickers. That was a pleasure.
Thank you, Magic. Always nice to see you.
Thank you, Ziggy.